You're watching E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Share and subscribe.
Hey guys, welcome to Entertainment Talk Nation. This is Rob. This video, we're going to do our review for the next episode of Game of Thrones, entitled Sons of the Harpy. Another solid episode as momentum continues to build, and we see at the end of this episode that we get one of those payoffs that we've been waiting for, that I've been discussing. In this aspect, the Sons of the Harpys have made a very, very aggressive move to really start sending the message of what they're trying to do, and not being, not happy with Daenerys obviously being there. And a lot of things in Meereen are just not looking too good right now. But before we get to that, let's talk about Jaime Lannister and Bronn finally making it to Dorne. And just like Bronn was telling him, just because you give the guy a bag of gold doesn't mean he's going to shut his mouth. He obviously did not. Bronn and Jaime had to take down a couple of guys. Bronn doing most of the work. But Jaime may be realizing that his hand can be, quite a tool if he puts it to good use. I mean, a couple of times I was thinking to myself, dude, why don't you block that sword with your hand? I mean, seriously. And maybe that's something he's going to start doing. It'll make a big difference in a lot of his fights. Also, if he slaps somebody with it, I mean, can you imagine the kind of blow they'd be stunned long enough for, for Jaime to stab him. So, but the cat's out the bag now. We don't know if there's anybody else who knows outside of Oberyn's wife now and the Sand Snakes that he's there. So looks like something's going to go down, because if either side makes a move, a war is going to start, and it looks like it's going to be inevitable. It looks like it's bound to happen at this point. People know Jaime's there. Oberyn's ex wants to obviously kill Jaime and Cersei's daughter to start a war as well. We'll see how that plays out. Lot of tension. Now, north of the wall, we have Jon Snow obviously doing his duty as the Lord Commander and signing some documents, and very reluctant to sign a document seeking help from Roose Bolton, which I can't blame him. I really can't. But, that's what makes this show so compelling, is that you see how these twists and turns happen. Like, one minute, you got this person you might root for 1 week. The next minute, you want that person dead. Here's Jon Snow, despises Roose Bolton, yet he seeks his help. It's crazy how things work out. And Melisandre obviously trying to convince Jon Snow to march south with them. And did anybody else's heart drop when she looked at him as she walked out the door and said, "You know nothing, Jon Snow"? I was like, whoa. Even the look on Jon's face was like, oh shit. So, Jon, they're still trying to kind of wear him down, try to get him to march. Ser Davos has been there to see him. Melisandre, obviously Stannis. So, will he crack? I mean, Ser Davos is probably the one out of the three that made the best point last week when he told him, when he quoted part of the vow and made Jon realize that part of the vow is also serving the kingdom in some way or another. But Jon's still holding close to his vows, wants to stay north of the wall, wants to stay at the wall and prepare for the incoming White Walkers, I would suppose, at some point, which we haven't seen yet this year, but I'm sure we will. Now, another interesting thing was in Westeros, or rather King's Landing, we see Tommin having a very hard time being a king. On one hand, he's got his wife, Marjorie, who's he's nuts about, obviously, really trying to play towards those emotions by getting him to free her brother, who was taken capture by the Sparrows, but under basically the motivation of Cersei Lannister. Of course, she always knows what she's doing. She sends away Lord Tyrell to the Iron Bank to get him out the way, and then, of course, gets I guess at some point they're going to get married. I don't think they are now. Gets him locked in jail, and now you have Cersei and Marjorie kind of yanking little Tommin back and forth, poor kid. And then when he goes to try and free Marjorie's brother, then you have this whole thing with the Sparrows, and Tommen's men are like, hey, we'll take care of him for you. But Tommin, being a good kid, does not want violence, he doesn't have that knack, you know what I mean? He wants to be peaceful. He doesn't want to have violence going on, but, that's what Game of Thrones is, you don't stay king being a nice guy. So right now he kind of showed his weakness there, and I think that could play a role in the future as other people or other factions begin to challenge his authority in King's Landing, and we'll see if that has a long-term effect. So then we have Jorah Mormont, obviously last week kidnapped Tyrion Lannister, taking him to see Daenerys Targaryen, which he was supposed to do anyway, in hopes of regaining some kind of confidence so he can get back in her court. I don't know how that's going to play out. I think it would have been better for Tyrion if Varys had taken him. I don't know if it's going to be such a good thing that Jorah is taking him, because quite frankly, Jorah will probably put his name in the dirt to Daenerys. I mean, he's a Lannister, so Daenerys is not going to have any love for him, but Varys would have been there to vouch for him, where Jorah obviously is not going to vouch for him. So that can be an issue for Tyrion. We'll see how that plays out as well. Now, back over in Meereen, the Sons of the Harpys made a very, very aggressive move, ambushing a lot of the Unsullied. And we see a nice battle take place in this, I want to say like a tomb of some sort, where there was basically the Unsullied were outnumbered by I would say at least 3-1. And greyworm did his work. I mean, at one point, greyworm was by himself just slaying these guys. And I was going to say to him, I was like, man, if greyworm gets killed, I'm going to be so tight. I love greyworm. He's so cool. And then, Ser Ballistan comes in and he does his thing, but unfortunately he meets his demise. They were just by numbers, you know, and we don't know how many Sons of Harpys there are. I mean, they killed quite a number of them despite their losses. I'll tell you one thing. There were a lot more Sons of the Harpys than there were Unsullied, but a lot of the Sons of the Harpys got killed, you know, and obviously the Unsullied got outnumbered, but still, there's thousands of Unsullied all over the place, as well as the mercenaries. So, I don't know how many, what the numbers are for these people. They're obviously working very hard to get their message across. It'll be interesting to see what Daenerys Targaryen does next to put this to an end. Will she open those pits? Will she just go full out civil war in her own kingdom? It's really, you know, if she's ever going to travel to Westeros and King's Landing, this is probably a good experience for her. Learning how to deal with civil movements that work against her, learning how to deal with war, learning how to deal with people, learning what decisions to make, knowing that decisions she makes are not going to be popular ones. She has that merciful side, but she does have that very assertive side. I think she has what it takes to rule, but right now she's dealing with a situation that is new to her, and I don't know if it'll be interesting to see how she handles it. She has a good court by her side. Unfortunately, one of her men are gone. Will that open the door for Jorah to come back when he delivers Tyrion Lannister? That'll be interesting as well. Or will Varys arrive before Jorah, because Varys is slick like that, and inform Daenerys of what to expect? Lots of stuff going on, you know. And then finally in Winterfell, we see that Sansa's there. She's in the tomb, you know, visiting her aunts, and Peter comes in, and Peter reassuring her that, look, what you're going through now is short-lived. And this is something I mentioned last week. Like, he has something up his sleeve. He always does. There is a plan. He has I don't think he has any intention of helping the Boltons. The Boltons will not get the help from the Lannisters. It'll be interesting to see what happens. Obviously, you know, if and when Cersei finds out that Sansa's in the north, it's gonna be, I mean, could you imagine what'll happen? I mean, it'll be like, alright, the Boltons betrayed us, but then she's unaware that a war is brewing from Dorne, and it's just all this shit going on. You got Dorne, the war might start with, you know, the Lannisters in King's Landing. You got Stannis marching south, wants to go to Winterfell, take over. And can you imagine if the Lannisters find out that Roose Bolton is Sansa in Winterfell? That'll sever that connection. So when Stannis attacks Winterfell, the Boltons will not get the back. They're not gonna get the back of the Lannisters regardless. But they certainly won't get it if Cersei finds out that Sansa's in Winterfell. Oh, shit, it's cray-cray. It is definitely crazy, man. It is crazy. So, but we'll see what happens. It looks like the dragons are going to show up next week. That'll be interesting as well. A lot of stuff brewing. You know, we saw one minor payoff this week with the big battle at the end in Meereen. Unfortunately, one of the deaths of a very charming character. One of the you know, good characters of the show. Doesn't show up very often, but it was always by Daenerys' side, and it's unfortunate, but that's how Game of Thrones is, man. People die. People die all the time. But I'm glad Grey Worm is alive. I hope he is. They showed Ser Ballistan being, you know, having a funeral. They didn't show Grey Worm, so that reassures me. It makes me feel a little good. But anyway, guys, that's it for this review. We'll see what happens next week. What did you guys think? How'd you like the episode? This is Rob signing off for E.T.N, where we don't do news, we just talk entertainment. Take it easy.
Thank you for watching E.T.N. Don't forget to comment, share, and subscribe. Join the Nation's Facebook page to meet other subscribers or visit E.T.N's Facebook page and Twitter page. Links for all are in the description.